Perfect. Okay. So last two questions. And you kind of mentioned it like over you've mentioned it, but let's just get a clear, straight, direct answer. The question is, what is the significance of rites of passage programming for young people in Africa and across the diaspora?
Well, in a sense, it's a theoretical question because not all people are engaged in this. So we can't say what significance it has because we don't know who's in it. But in theory, it's based on the several premises. But in the context of what we've been saying, rites of passage is the process that really helps people understand where they are in the journey of life. That's important to know. Where you are on a path is important. So if you're taking a flight from Canada here, and you're trying to gauge whether you're making progress or not, you need to know where are you. If you say I'm stuck in Toronto, our flight has been delayed, then you haven't started the journey at all. So I said, so what are you doing? How's the plane? He said, I haven't seen the plane. I'm in the airport. I can tell you about the mall here. I can tell you about the food court, but I can't tell you anything about the plane because the plane hasn't arrived. I haven't gotten on it, so I'm not at that stage. So rites of passage is the configuration that gives us a sense of life, and we can position ourselves on the path. So I know that I'm a child. So in the episode, the chapter of my life called Child, there's certain things that are going on in that chapter. Now I can skip to the end of the book and read eldership, but I know it doesn't really apply to me because I'm not at that point. It's like going to a movie and you walk in and you realize you got the time wrong and you're seeing the credits roll. And you come out and someone says, well, Jamila, how was the movie? I really don't know. Or you come in midway to film and you see things that are taking place, but you don't know what has led up to these things. So it's a bunch of guesswork. And then you sit there and you say, I don't really know what's going on because I didn't get the beginning. So rites of passage allows us to, most of the times when you consciously become part of rites of passage, you've already gone through passages that you didn't know. So now you're coming into the film midway, some point of your life, and you see the characters struggling, but you don't know why they're struggling because you didn't see the beginning of the movie. So your life is similar to that. So rites of passage helps you, or we think in theory it helps, because you have a chance to stop your life in a way, and let's do the Sankofa. Let's go back through your life to the beginning and see if we can piece together the storyline that you are following that is unknown to you. You're on a mission. You have a purpose. You came here to do something, but you missed the first 3 chapters of it that, as you think about them, they were very traumatic. So you really don't want to know about that. But without knowing about that, you won't know how you got to the point where you are now. And so you have to go back to go forward. That's Sankofa. So rites of passage is a way to think about your life as a total film and break it down into scenes that relate to the total film. But in this scene, you had a lot of trouble. But that trouble prepared you for the challenge that came in scene 2. Without that trouble, you wouldn't have been ready for scene 2.
Right.
So based on what you got out of scene 1, the challenges that you had there, you didn't know that it prepared you for scene 2. But you didn't know about scene 2 until you get to it. And at a certain point in lots of films, based on what's happened, we can, as the audience, we can begin to see what's going to happen here. It's been configured in a way, and our mind starts telling us, I know what's going to be the outcome of this. Unless there's a surprise ending. But most of the time, we're not surprised. We say, well, you could tell that this was going to happen. You could just see it was going to happen. You could just see that that's the way this was going to go. So rites of passage is very important as a way to think about your life and the episodes that you're experiencing so that you can get a sense of what is it that you're supposed to get out of these episodes? How do you interpret these episodes? And what do you need to do going forward? That's why we say in rites is teaching you a critical thing that's all part of traditional culture. And in the West and everywhere else outside of Africa, that seems to have escaped everybody. And that is, one principle is man and nature are one. In the West, they think they are in charge of nature, or they control nature. But rights tells us that man and nature are one in a harmonious relationship. You're not in charge of nature. If anything is in charge of anything, nature is in charge of you. Mm-hmm. Your best bet is to be in collaboration with nature. You're not going to be in charge of nature. So that's the principle. That's the first principle. And then no matter what episode of life you're in, there are going to be ups and downs and challenges and turmoil. That's part of your development. So it doesn't mean you're going to like it, but it means it is part of the episode that you're in. That's part of it. So you have to get used to these episodes. And every passage has 3 ritualized components, actually, what we call separation, transition, incorporation. Every episode has that. And rites is a cyclical process. You still hear me okay?
It kind of froze a bit, but it's okay. I still got what you said. Yeah, I still got what you said. So
okay, I just made a note. So if you hear me, I'll keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
So rites of passage is kind of a repetitive cycle of rituals that you have to encounter throughout your life cycle. And we say there's basically 8 episodes in this total life cycle. The first episode is prenatal. You're not even into the world officially born yet. And you have episodes that you're dealing with the prenatal episode. We say what's going on in that episode really is you're putting together the body that your spirit needs in order to exist in this dimension. So you got a 9-month work project to assemble the body that is needed to allow your soul to move around in this dimension. The irony is that most people configure the ideal body for the mission that they're on, only to be born and be distracted by the things around you and lose confidence in the body that you have, and now you want a different body. So the body you have is too fat or it's too short. or it's to this, or it's to that. But keep in mind that this is the body that you configured that will be ideal for the mission that you're on. But now that you've gotten distracted, the body's not attractive enough or whatever. So now you're off course, focused on something that is not related to your mission. Now it has become your desire, but it's not related to your mission at all. You had the perfect thing for the mission when you came, but now you're not satisfied with it. So your mind is now gravitating towards other stuff. So, but in every passage, there's a point at which you begin to get the hang of it. As a child, you start to figure out what a kid is supposed to do, how to manipulate the environment of the kid episode. You know how to get your parents to respond to your sounds and your cries and your desires. You know how to do that. You know how to pretend like you don't hear your mom when she says it's time to go to bed. You pretend like you don't hear that. So you figure all this kind of stuff out. And the way rites goes and the way the life cycle seems to go is just at about the time you figure out that episode, the episode is over. You're not a child anymore. But you just figured out how to be the perfect child and get whatever you want, do what you want to do, get the people to like you, say one little word and your parents go crazy because you said something. You figured all this out. And then it's time for you to leave that passage or that episode. So now you got to separate from that episode, transition to the next episode, and then be incorporated into that next episode. So now that once you've figured out all of what it is to be an adorable little girl, your parents are happy with you, you're loving it, you do everything you want. On one day out of nowhere, you're told you have to go to school. So the child episode is over. You don't like it, you cry about it, you don't want to give up the passage that you just had because you just figured it out. It took a long time to figure, it took 5 years to figure this out. Now you got to figure it out and they tell you that's over with. Now you're a big girl now. Now you're a big girl, which means nothing at all. Yesterday you weren't a big girl, but now all of a sudden from nowhere, now you're a big girl. You have to have a whole new environment. Now you got to go someplace where there's new people. You got to transition there, whether you're kicking and screaming or you say, well, okay, either way, you got to go there. And then you got to somehow be incorporated into this environment with a whole bunch of other 5-year-olds that are all kicking and screaming and crying and whining and complaining because they just left what they figured out too. So now you're in this passage. Now you got to figure that passage out. Just like you figured out the first one, you got to figure it out. But it's not fun. Then you have problems there. You say things that before you got there, everything you said, your parents were loving it. No matter how stupid it was, they were loving it. They say, oh, Jamila, that is so fantastic. You are so smart. You get to school and nobody says that anymore. So now you got to adjust to and somehow deal with all of these traumas. You got to learn how to follow directions. You didn't have any directions to really follow. It was just you. You didn't have to line up to go from the kitchen to the bathroom. You have to line up. You have to take turns. You got to learn all this stuff. So that next passage is now subjecting you to trauma and challenges that are all designed to prepare you for the next challenge, the next episode, but you don't know that. You just really want to have what you had before. So you're sitting in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, sucking your thumb, dragging around a little blanket. Stuff you could do at home and nobody complains about it, but you can't do that. You can't do that anymore. These are your main tools to satisfy yourself, but you can't do that. So this passage is teaching you. So just at the time you figure this out, just about the time you figure all this out, say, well, I thought this, I remember when I first came to kindergarten, it was just horrible. But now, you know, 6th grade is really the life. I am the star of this school. Everybody likes me. I'm smart because you figured out this passage. And as soon as you figure it out, you have graduation that says you're going to middle school. You're going to be the least known person in the school. You know, everything you figured out is null and void now. So you got to separate from elementary, transition to middle, and be incorporated into middle school. And you don't realize that you've done this twice already. You don't realize that, but you go to middle school kicking and screaming. I won't have my friends. I'm going to a new school. My friends are all going to another school. This is going to be terrible. I'm going to kill myself. Can I be homeschooled? No, but you got to go there. You got to go there. And the fact that you've completed the first childhood, then you've completed it all the way up to pre-adolescence. You've done this successfully already, but it doesn't dawn on you that you've already succeeded in these passages. But that's what you've done. And now you're prepared for middle school. Nobody likes you because you're too smart, or you're too cute, or the boys like you and they don't like other people, so the girls hate you because the boys like you, and it's not your fault. You just came in the package that you came in, but nobody likes that. So now it's just like a living hell. If you raise your hand and answer too many questions, the teacher's real happy and the students in the room hate you more. So you got to figure all this out. You got 3 years to figure it out. Now you're an adolescent. So, but you're well along the route. You're like in the 4th passage now. You're an adolescent. You're like in the 4th passage. So you got to figure all this out. And so by 8th grade, you kind of figure it out. You're the star of the school. You're at the top. You're older than all the other 6th and 7th grade. You've taken the classes. You know the subjects. You can help them with their homework. They can meet you in the cafeteria, in the study hall, or wherever, and ask you information. You know the answers to the questions. So it's like you're really at the top of your game. Then you got to go to high school. Now you're the youngest one in high school all again. The seniors all can bully you. You're like nobody, even though you can say, well, I successfully came through 5 passages as a star. Well, you ain't a star right now, girlfriend. You got to start all over again. And this is life, over and over and over. So the rites of passage is preparing us in structuring our consciousness to realize you're in a revolving set of episodes that are designed to move you to a different level of functioning, so that at some point you will be fully prepared to do the mission that you came to do. You'll know what it is. You'll be equipped to know what it is. You'll be mature enough to deal with the trials and tribulations along the way, because in life, shit happens. I don't care who it is or what time it is, shit happens. So you got to be able to deal with life every day, knowing that in any moment, something could happen that's interfering with what you're trying to do. And you're lucky and fortunate when those days don't occur. That's the real benefit, when things don't happen, because they always do. So if you go through a day or through a period and say, I'm on a roll. If you're on a roll, if you deal with rites of passage, things have to be in balance all the time too. So you're not going to just be on a roll forever. Something's going to happen that's going to balance that out. So your good luck is not perpetual. At the height of what you want, there's something else that's balancing that, because the universe has to be in balance. So we say, what we say in rites is, whatever happens is all good. It's all good. It's all good qualitatively. You label things as good and bad based on what you like and what you don't like. But both of them, in the context of right, both of them are good. Because if you have what you call good because it feels good, in rights, we say that's a confirmation that you're on the right track. That's what that is. It's a signal to keep going. If it's something that we call good in rights that you call bad because you don't like how it feels, we say that's the lesson that you're learning to prepare you to move forward easier and better. It's like medicine. Most medicine that you take to relieve your pain does not taste good. So there's something about the medicine that it has to be negative in order to do something for you that is positive. So it's not good and bad in the sense that we're talking about. All of it's good. All the bad things that have ever happened to you are good too, because they have somehow participated and contributed to the person that is standing there right now. So you're an integrated system. So whatever's happening, the system is somehow integrating it. So if you say, well, I'm doing pretty well. So that means, as you've thought about all the horrible things that have happened to you, all the glorious things that happened to you, all of them together are put into an equation that allows you to say, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. Oh no, girl, you've never had any problem at all. Actually, your life is perfect. But you can tell anybody, say, well, it may look like that to you, but that's not the way it's really been. But all in all things considered, I'm doing pretty good. Because you have to take the good with the bad, because you need both of them in order to be on point and moving towards your passage. You can't just accomplish what you want to accomplish if you've had zero adversity. Because the first time you have adversity, you're likely to quit. So the adversity is an assurance policy to you that we say everything is relative. So in everything we do, it's got to be compared to something. So if you say, well, I've had this problem. So the next problem you have, the first thing that comes to your subconscious mind is, how does this compare to the problem that I just had last? If it's worse than that, I know I got to really gear up here, because this hill is a little bit steeper than the one I climbed. But if it's less than that, you say, well, this is a piece of cake, because it's not as bad as something I've already done. So we need all these things together in order to keep moving us, and we're not playing tricks in our mind. A person that has never had adversity thinks that they are very capable until they have adversity. Say, oh no, I don't have any problems. I can do anything. Yeah, well, what's the most difficult challenge you've faced? Well, I really haven't had any challenges. So what makes you think you're going to do well when you have a challenge? Since you've never had any, what makes you so confident you're going to do well? Well, I always do well, but you haven't had anything that has tested that. So you've created an illusion, an impression in your mind. Say, but as soon as we put you to a test, you find out that you're going to now sit down and crying and complain, and you're ready to jump out of 10-story windows. Because what? Because I didn't get my check. Well, that's a bit extreme, don't you think? You killed yourself because you didn't get a check? Because this little thing didn't happen? Well, that's because you've never had any adversity. So the first adversity you have, you magnify it and make it a catastrophe. But that wouldn't happen if you had been dealing with things all along. Like you're in Ghana now, so this is a perfect thing, a perfect example. We can put this on this platform 50 times if we needed to do this. If we were trying to get this call done in the US, nobody is going to keep putting this thing back 3 times. Yeah. Nobody's going to do that. It's too frustrating. It's too unpredictable. It's too annoying. And nobody has the patience, the tolerance, the persistence to do it. So we say, well, I'll call you back when we can get this working. Okay. So that's what we'll do. Nobody's going to do that. We could do this if we had the capacity. If it was at night and the lights went off, we could still do this call.
Right.
Nobody in the US is going to do that because you can't function with the lights off. It's too distracting. I got to call the illuminating company or the electric power company. I got to call my friends and ask them if their lights are on or off. I can't do anything. But here we could do this all day, every day with no power, no lights, no water. You can't do that anywhere because they don't have enough adversity to deal with things that are fairly simple. So that makes them vulnerable. So the first sign of adversity is almost catastrophic. It's almost catastrophic. And you say, well, what happened? I couldn't do. Last night was terrible. The lights went off and I couldn't think. I couldn't rest. I said, why didn't you just go to sleep? Well, I couldn't go to sleep because I was too worried about this, that, and the other. When it was dark, when you go to sleep, the lights are off too. Why didn't you just go to sleep? And wake up tomorrow, the sun will be off. And even if the lights aren't on, you'll still be able to see. Mm-hmm. No, but I couldn't. You don't understand. This was just terrible. This was horrible. Well, if you're in Africa, you wouldn't think like that. Because you have that experience all the time. So you get used to it. It's not a big deal. Light a candle and shut the fuck up. Just light a candle and go do what you're doing. You're so fragile now that you can't deal with the smallest of things. So rites of passage is preparing us and strengthening your constitution, your mind, and your perspective on life to know that challenges are in front of you and they're designed to strengthen you. And so you meet the challenge and you don't try to avoid the challenge. The challenge is the thing that you actually need. So you meet the challenge. The challenge strengthens you. It reinforces your resolve because you know you get past it. You almost get past any challenge if you just go do it. There's very few things that you don't achieve if you actually try to do them. Most of what you don't achieve is only because you stop trying to do it. Because you see too many people doing the same thing. So anything that millions of people can do, that can't be that hard. Millions of people can do things, like millions of people can drive a car. So you tell me how hard driving a car is, but you see millions of people doing this. So you can do this too if you just wanted to do it. If you don't want to do it, then don't say it's hard. Just say you don't want to do it.
Exactly.
So that's how rites of passage fits in. And elders, it becomes a job of an elder to present him and herself in a way that will encourage the youth to want to talk to them. Because they have a lot of answers to youth questions, and they can forecast a lot of things for youth so that when they come upon them, they're not surprised, they're not traumatized, they're not dissuaded from doing it. Because you say now, if we get on this call and we knew ahead of time, we would say, look, based on what's happening with the network today, I think we probably have to anticipate about 5 or 6 reboots to this call. So we say, well, okay, that's what's happening. Yeah, I've heard that already. So if we have to reboot it, we'll just reboot it. So we won't make it a big thing. So elders can forecast things for young people So that in theory, they can see the landscape ahead and realize that they have some advice about what's I'm likely to encounter. It's like a sign on the roads here, which would be very appropriate, where you're going down a paved road and then you come to a sign that says rough road ahead. That sign alone puts you into a frame of mind that you have to drive differently. You have to be a little more cautious. You have to extend your anticipation of the arrival time. And you just have to drive different. You're not going to be able to do what you just did for 20 miles because there's the rough road ahead means something different. So elders, if they're respected and they do what's respected, they don't try to tell young people what to do. Because a young person has a sense of what they want to do. So you're not telling someone what to do. You're trying to give them an idea that you're likely to encounter turbulence, or you're likely to encounter rough roads, or you're likely to experience deep water. But you got to do what you got to do because it's your life, it's your mission, it's your purpose, and nobody's on that path exactly like it is but you. So who am I to tell Jamila what she should do? I don't know what she should do because I don't know what her path is. But if she tells me what she's likely to do, I can say, well, based upon what I've learned, if I was headed in that direction, here's some things I would consider. Now, maybe they won't happen to you at all, but this is what I would consider. This is the advice I would give. These are the cautions I would say you got to look out for. Say, are you prepared? Have you prepared all the things that you could prepare? Then you go with whatever happens because you don't know what's out there. But at the end of the day, you have to let young people understand that at the end of the day, you got to make your decision. Because I'm on a different path. I'm on my path. You're on your path. So if you tell me, say, Nana, here's what I think you could do. Here's what I think you could do that would really be helpful. So I say, well, I'd like to hear what that is. Because it might help me to determine what I want to do. But it may just be something I said, well, that sounds pretty good. I thought about it, but I wasn't interested in that. Or it wasn't going to help what I'm trying to do. So I think what young people want, the same thing we wanted when we were young people. Every young person has a feeling they want to do what they want to do. I know I did. I still do. I want to do what I want to do. I don't want people telling me what I have to do because I don't have to do anything.
Right.
I can always say, no, I don't have to do that. Now you might say, well, I think it's advisable that you consider it based upon what you say you're trying to do. That's a different thing. But you can't tell me I can't do something. I won't accept that. So I think what elders should do, and I think is most helpful with young people, because an elder that's accomplished something, a lot of what you accomplish as an elder, when you get to that point, if you're honest with yourself, a lot of it is because you defied what people told you.
Right.
You've gone against the advice that you were given because you didn't like it, or you felt it was going to be restraining, or somehow it was going to be too slow, or you just didn't want to hear the sound of, yeah, I can't do something. That's the way you were. And that attitude is what has propelled you to this place where you are right now. So as you talk to young people, you have to keep in mind that the young people are just like you. They're just younger. So you encourage them and say, look, if you think you can do that, I think you can do that too. So I think you should prove to yourself that you can do it. I think you can do it. If you think you can do it, I think you can do it. I believe you can do it. You believe you can do it. But you can't do it by being stupid. And I can tell you that. You can't do it by being haphazard. I can tell you that. You can't do it because you think it's going to be luck. You can't do it without working. These things I know, and I'm 100% sure of that. So if you think you're going to sit right there and you're going to become a neurosurgeon, and you don't like science, and you don't like reading, and you don't like homework, well, you're delusional. That's not going to happen. I know that for a fact. So you can spend your life thinking that you can sit there, and eventually somebody's going to bring you a degree from a university, a teaching hospital, and put it in your lap and say, well, we heard that you are an excellent surgeon. That's not going to take place. So, but if you think you can do it and you apply yourself, I think you can do it too. I think you can do anything if you just want to do it badly enough and you work hard enough. And the beauty is, if you can't do that thing, there's millions of other things that you will see that you can do instead of that. Mm-hmm. Because you're shooting for the moon in your mind. So, as it's often said, if you shoot for the moon and you don't make it, at least you'll land on one of the stars. Or if you shoot for the stars, if you don't make it, you'll land on the moon. That ain't a bad come down.
That's right.
So go for it. If you don't make it, you'll grow in the process and you become mature enough and observant enough and flexible enough to realize that there's all kind of other things I could do too. And you'll be just fine. So that's what rites is trying to do and prepare us for our ultimate return to the ancestral realm from which we came.